Hi, hello everybody. My name is James Chase Young. Today we're going to be taking a tour of the USS Midway / the USS Midway Museum. We'll be helped out by our friend Carol Benitez. She's kind of our on-hand history buff. So the USS Midway Museum is made out of the actual USS Midway aircraft carrier. And the aircraft carrier is an amazing thing. It was commissioned directly after World War II, September 10th, 1945. So it just barely missed World War II by a couple weeks. And it was decommissioned on April 11th, 1992. So it just got to serve in Desert Storm as their main ship in the Persian Gulf before it was decommissioned. And then it was donated to the San Diego City for a museum. And when you're walking up to this thing is huge, you know, so it's like, I think it was, when it was commissioned, it was 45,000 tons. When it was decommissioned, it was 65,000 tons. So it was a huge ship.
This tour is so cool, and as you can see, there are actual veterans who worked on this ship back in the day who guide you on the tours. They're standing all around, and if you ask them questions, they'll actually tell you stories about what they've been through. So let's see if we can get one of them to tell us a story.
Did I drive the ship? No, but I rode on this ship though. 70 and 71, yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
I was on 2 other ships before that, and this was much better. The other ones were flat bottom.
Have parties on here?
Are you a career man? Did you put in 20 some years?
No.
Oh, no.
I'm Vietnam era, right? Either went into service for 4 years or you went in for 2 years and went to Vietnam as a ground pounder, and I preferred going back with all my faculties. It worked out all right.
That's really cool, sir.
So did you patrol up and down like the Gulf of Tonkinson?
We did up and down the Vietnam coastline, and they did all kinds of air strikes and things for the ground pounders and stuff. And they were constantly going, a lot of night operations and things. So it was a busy ship. I think it did 5 or 6 tours in Vietnam. Then it did the first Iraqi war, and then that was it.
That's really cool. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
What do you say?
I don't know.
I can't hear them. They're so cute and old.
Oh yeah. Yeah, when you're on the ship, you know, you'll see these old guys, and you know, be like, oh, you know, in 1967, that's where my bunk was, or that's where my job was, or this is what happened in 1972 off the coast of Vietnam. So yeah, you get actual veterans, you know, giving you tours, or you know, me and Carol, we just walked around, so like we didn't even take like a guided tour, but you can always stop and ask those veterans questions and stories, and they'll always tell you. And also, I'll let Carol explain this. You can get these little sound packs that you know, you hit them on the beeper, and then they like tell you a story through the little sound pack. But yeah, when you first walk in, I'll come back to that. When you first walk in, though, there's this huge hangar underneath, and the hangar underneath is normally that's where all the World War II aircraft are.
As you walk onto the ship, they do offer a self-guided tour, so you're able to take this little control that you pretty much point at the objects in this museum, and it'll tell you what they are. And it has different languages. It's really cool. So let's see what we can learn from being here.
Yeah, I'll pause it here because Carol loves this picture, but like it's in the under the flight deck, the hangar underneath. That's where they have most of their World War II stuff. Like, even though, you know, the USS Midway wasn't in World War II, it was, you know, obviously named after the Battle of Midway, and you know, it also was commissioned just a few days after World War II, so it's still kind of that era. And yeah, underneath the flight deck, under the hangar underneath, that's where like the museum's very heavily dedicated to like World War II planes, World War II dive bombers, World War II this and that. And yeah, like going through, you know, they have a whole bunch of stories both about the USS Midway and the Battle of Midway fought in 1942. Okay, Midway expert, what's that plane?
Huh? I don't know. Damn, I feel lame. Wait, am I supposed to know? What's in my notes? All my notes.
This is an easy one. Look at me. What's the USS Midway named after? No.
Dude, I don't know. Are you serious? I don't know. You have to tell me the answer.
Here, I'll use it for the audio. It's named after the Battle of Midway,
Oh,
which
okay.
was the first battle where two navies opposed each other, and neither navy saw the other side.
Was named after what?
There was a battle called Midway Battle in early World War II. It was the first battle in World War II.
Are these in the nose? Because I can read them if they're in the nose.
No, this isn't. It was the first Navy battle where neither Navy saw each other because they used aircraft carriers to strike the other Navy instead of like stereotypically
Yeah.
cannonballing the shit out. I'm sure that was just a one-off. I'm sure she'll know the rest of the history questions for sure. But yeah, and then like that dive bomber back there, if you've ever seen the movie Midway, it was that kind of plane that the guy flew when he hit two Japanese aircraft carriers on the same day with a dive bomber. It's the Douglas SBD Dauntless.
The SS Midway is named after a battle in Midway, but the ship was never part of the battle. Isn't that cool? Didn't know that. Fun
How
fact.
many Japanese aircraft carriers got sunk?
I don't know.
Which aircraft carrier in the United States got sunk?
I don't know, dude.
Yeah, there was 4 Japanese aircraft carriers sunk in the Battle of Midway. And the United States, we lost the USS Yorktown in Midway. So it was a 1-4, so we did pretty good.
Interesting, but I don't like
Carol.
history,
This is
geography. I don't know anything about it. And if I'm being real, I'm not even from here. I'm Mexican, so I don't need to know American history.
This is the Vought F4U for a Corsair. It was used throughout World War II in Korea, and in World War II it had an 11-to-1 kill ratio. You want to get your picture?
Yeah. So what you do is like you take your little remote and you actually, sorry guys, you point it at this guy right here. And you press play on the device and it'll start telling you facts about the ship and about, well, in this case, about this airplane back here. Sorry guys.
I'm pretty sure most every plane there, and they got at least dozens and dozens of them. You'll see. I posted about a lot of them. Pretty much every plane has its own little scanner that you hit with this little electronic thing, and then they'll tell you the details of it. And then I'll reiterate this when we go into the ship. You can also do that with like different rooms, the radio room, the mess hall, the chow hall. You have all these different rooms, and you can hit these scanners, and they'll tell you everything about it. So if you don't want a tour guide, you don't really need one. Just get those little electronic scanners. They're not on the flight deck. The flight deck is enormous. I think it's the size of at least 3 football fields, and you can really tell. Like when you go to the end, looking back at San Diego, because the ship is parked right off the coast of downtown San Diego, and when you're on the one end of the flight deck looking all the way back over 3 football fields away, San Diego looks like a long ways away. So it's a huge ship. It was the biggest ship when it was made in 1945. It was the biggest ship in the world, and it stayed the biggest ship until 1955. And it was the first ship that was too big to go through the Panama Canal. So it set some records, and it got even bigger and bigger as they made it more modernized and made it up to date for the bigger airplanes that they have nowadays compared to back in the days. Then that plane in the back, that's the T-2 Buckeye. It was the United States Navy's intermediate training aircraft. It entered service in
It's just, like, kinda
1959.
sunny. I can't see.
That is the T-2 Buckeye that Carol's modeling for us. And then the SH-3 Sea King, that big weird-shaped helicopter. Yeah, it was the SH-3 Sea King is an American twin-engine anti-submarine warfare helicopter, a landmark design. It was one of the first ASW rotorcraft to use turboshaft engines. This is the Cayman SH-2 Sea Spirit, a ship-based helicopter originally. It has been typically used as a compact, fast-moving rotorcraft for utility in anti-submarine warfare.
We'll do this one.
Grab the 50 cal.
Dude, you're not supposed to go that way. I'm getting in trouble.
Too far for you?
Dude, I'm gonna get in trouble. This is my boyfriend right here. I think my boyfriend's allowed to.
And
grab
here it
the
is.
video.
The
Wait,
Huey.
how do you even shoot
Well,
this?
there's different variations of the Huey, but obviously everybody knows the Huey from Vietnam. It's the one. It's certain types of the Hueys are the ones that, you know, the guys used to sit out, have their feet dangling outside of the door in Vietnam, and lots of times they also had a gunner, you know,
That
watching
thing
the
is
rice
cool.
paddies
I
in the
like that.
jungles. And that it's those Hueys that are very famous to, you know, Vietnam. They're kind of like to Vietnam what, like, you know, P-51s or B-17s are to World War II. You know, you see them in every single Vietnam War movie, the Huey.
This is so unique.
Next up.
That is really cool. Can you imagine like sitting in there? Actually, you did sit in there, huh? Did you sit in there and go to war, Jameson?
Then the CH-46 Sea Knight. I didn't know they were called the Boeing Vertol or the Sea Knight, but this is very historical for me because I rode in CH-46s when I was in the military. So this was the first time I seen or been in one in over 20 years. And I didn't even know that they'd been replaced, but apparently they came out with a new variant. Very similar aircraft, looks exactly the same, but it's not the CH-46, it's a CH-47. But anyway, this particular one is the CH-46. It was heavily used, at least all through Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm sure a lot longer than that. And this is the Lockheed S-3 Viking. Twin-engine turbofan-powered subsonic anti-submarine jet aircraft. It was designed and produced by the Lockheed Corporation. Because of its characteristic sound, it was nicknamed the War Hoover, after the vacuum cleaner brand. And it was manufactured from 1974 to 1978. And then the McDonnell Douglas F-4 Phantom II. Now these are very famous to Vietnam. They actually, I think, scored some of the first confirmed kills. They shot down a couple MiGs, several MiGs in 1965, but they're very famous and known for their service in Vietnam. The F-4 Phantom. It's one of the most decorated aircraft to come out of Vietnam. And yeah, the F-4 Phantom II, it entered service in the 1960s. It was capable of reaching a maximum speed of close to Mach 2.23 and an initial climb speed of 210 meters per second. This aircraft model set 15 different world records, and it was used extensively during the Vietnam War.
I could use the button one because it was like poking like your man's buttons, you know what I mean? Like it just had different content, but I can't use random stuff like that. It won't do nothing.
Parts and supplies to the carrier from long distances away. That's Baron Asher. He flew the C-2. We bring the mail and the parts and the key things that
Would
make
they
the
stand here?
operation work.
I don't know. These are
Manual labor.
Heavy air strategy for the C-2.
Nothing is created in everything.
That little thing is the Grumman C1 Trader. It is a carrier onboard delivery variant of the Grumman S2 tracker. It was replaced by a similar version. It entered service in 1956 and was retired in 1988 with the 87 aircraft produced. It mainly carried just mail and supplies to the Midway and to other big ships. And this here, the Douglas A4 Skyhawk. And it was manufactured from 1954 to 1979, and by the time production ended in February of 1979, a total of 2,960 had been built. The Navy operated the type as its principal light attack aircraft during the Vietnam War, carrying out some of the first U.S. airstrikes of the conflict. And that is the Douglas A4 Skyhawk. And here comes the F-18, Boeing FA-18 Super Hornet. Obviously, everybody knows, F-15, F-16, F-18. Those are a little bit more modern day famous ones. And the F-18 is pretty storied. Half the time when they're making movies, it involves an F-18. All fourth generation fighter designed to be loaded onto aircraft carriers. And it was produced originally in 1995, and they've been producing it all the way into the present time period. And that is not all the airplanes on that ship. That ship is loaded down with aircraft. I mean, you could just go for hours just looking at the aircraft, both in the underneath hangars and on top of the flight deck. And it also makes for some really good visuals. Like, I know at one point in time, Carol, she walks out to the end, and you can see, you can great photo op is what I'm trying to say. So yeah, make some really great photo ops.
This is cool. This kind of makes you want to jump in. Doesn't it make you kind of want to jump into the ocean?
And there are some things, even if you got like little kids, I think most of the little kids, especially like little boys, would like the big planes and stuff. But if you do have your little kids, they do have attractions for little kids or for Carol, whichever one. But she got these little boat games you can drive on this tour.
Okay, so we're here at the USS Midway, and you can actually get a little boat, which is kind of cool. Let's see what boat we get. Forward, backwards. Where's my boat?
And then from there you can go inside the ship. It would take, you almost have to go twice to do the whole ship because it would take hours and hours and hours. But we went into like where they controlled and commanded it. We did like, I think that's Carol looking out of some type of radio room. And then when you're walking around the halls of this place, it's very close quarters. Even Carol said like, this would be fine for her, but for like a man, it would be very close quarters. And every single room, they basically turned into like a little mini museum. Sometimes they'll have a room that's filled with like a lot of, just a lot of descriptive stuff, about what it did on this year, that year, like lots of paragraphs and posters all about what it did. Other times it will have rooms that look very similar to how it was when they were operating the ship. And you can sit down and you can like operate it yourself, and you can, as Carol will show, you can push all the buttons you want.
Touch all of them. You can't put buttons in front of me, okay? I'm like a child. I'm gonna go type on that typewriter. Look, it has fake coffee. Can you imagine being here in the olden days and typing like letters to your wife? Like, I miss you, I'm out at war.
And it's it's a crazy big museum. Like I said, every single room they did this to is like a different type of museum and a different showcase, and how they showcased it is all different. Like I said, sometimes they have these big posters or banners talking about, who served or when it served or what wars or battles it served in. And then other times they, you'll walk into like a radio room and they'll have all the radios, and it's set up similar to how it was back in the day. And like I said, you can push all the buttons you want. It doesn't really matter.
Oh, wow. They're actually talking through the phone.
Right.
Yeah.
And yeah, a lot of those phones, you can still, you can pick up phones and they'll be like talking about, mission operation stuff, and same thing, they'll have radios, and all along the way, you can use your little scanner to hit a QR code and then have a guy explain in details what it's like to be here, to do that, or what they did in this room or that room.
This is Radio Central. Stroll around the perimeter of the room. Only authorized personnel were allowed in here because information was sensitive, especially in wartime. Incoming radio messages arrived, got typed up, and sent throughout the ship. Officer John Jones was on board during the Gulf War. We were in the process of running strikes into Iraq and Kuwait.
And then we come to Carol's favorite room, the button room. Yeah, she had to get a bunch of pictures for this because of her Instagram. She said something, she could use it, something like turning your man's buttons or something. I don't know. This is what she said, not me. But yeah, she really loved this room. I think she got some good pictures out of it. And then of course, she helped us, talk about the history, obviously.
I actually do kind of want a video.
And then you can also go through, like we went through the captain's quarters and the admiral's quarters and like the VIP quarters, and you can see like they're nice beds. They have really nice beds and really nice areas. Heck, they got their own personal kitchen chef for them. And where like the other guys, I'll show you like the the regular sailors, they just had like little bunk beds packed into one room. But yeah, you can go through the captain's quarters, you can go through where like the admiral and the VIP stay, and it's a really cool place. And you can also go up top. You do have to wait in line, but you can go up top to where like the bridge where they command and control the entire ship. The entire tour is really amazing. It's one of the It's one of the best museums. You know, most museums, they'll just have a bunch of like, you know, little cardboard signs talking about, you know, what happened or what this and that did. This museum has, well, the whole entire museum is an actual ship that it was in, and every single room has actual, where it was actually on the ship, and every single object, you know, was either on the ship or is similar to what the ship had. And on top of it all, you know, you have actual veterans giving you tours or giving you stories and or doing ceremonies. So it's arguably, and you know, that's not including all the planes. You know, you got dozens and dozens of planes and helicopters. It is arguably the best museum I've ever been to. And I don't really rave about museums. So if I say it's the best, it's pretty good. It is a very unique, aircraft carrier, you know, being the biggest of its kind for a lot of years. And it's a very amazing ship. Comes from a very amazing time period, and it now serves as a very amazing museum. And I hope you found this interesting. I hope you liked this video. If you do, please hit the like button and please subscribe. My name's
It's actually
James
kinda
Chase
scary.
Young. This is Coins
What
and
if it
History.
broke?
Thank you.
That's cute. I actually got a pretty decent one.